Welcome back, Christian Men Unscripted. We are back after, 2 weeks? I think it's been 2 weeks, right? We had a Christmas Eve, and then we went off the air, and people have been DMing us, like, hey, where you at? No, they haven't, actually. I'm just making that part up. But it's a new year now, 2025. How'd everybody do Christmas, New Year's? Everybody's good?
Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Yay.
John, that's John. John and Seth are here with me. Sorry. Forgot about that part. But good New Year's. I was going to say, we're going to talk about like New Year's resolutions, or I don't even know if they're resolutions. Kind of like a reset. I don't like to call them resolutions, because I like to have a reset. Because I was telling the students at Hope when I was talking to them Wednesday, every year when I don't for how long, 10 years now, when the new year comes around and I started working when I was a police officer, I'd always get this anxiety. Oh, is this the year where bad things happen to me, where I get shot, where this, where that? Always. Even now, I did it like 2 weeks ago, and it's weird, not funny, funny. Like, I had that thought. Like, I'm not a police officer anymore, I'm retired, but I'm like, is this the year that I get the cancer? Is this the year that something bad happens to my family? And I know those are bad thoughts to have, right? So it's a reset. I'm trying to have good thoughts, good, then we had, my wife's birthday is the 1st, so we had a little get together, and we had things with people. And I was like, it's going to be a good year. Things are going to be good this year. And then I woke up on New Year's Day, and that guy blew up the Cybertruck outside of Trump Towers. That was weird. And then the guy went down New Orleans and ran over a bunch of people. Unbelievable. And I'm just like, okay, maybe not. And now, California's burning down, which is crazy. I'm like, but this whole New Year thing is crazy. It's not good. And then we had some things happen in our family, nothing major, but I'm like, oh my gosh, it's been 10 days now? We're 10 or 11 days, wherever we're at. 2 weeks into the new year, I'm like, okay, this is not going well. Yeah, but could be worse always, right?
Well, I feel like we need to unpack your anxiety on this one.
No, I've always had that. We've talked about it several times.
You bring up like 50 topics in one conversation very quickly.
One more to add to it. My son, who is 21, he's an adult, saying, Dad, can I borrow your truck? I'm going up to Utah to Duck Creek with my friends. And I don't think there's snow or ice up there. I don't think they've had a lot right now, even though it's winter. But he don't know how to drive in snow and ice. If there was, I'm like, this is not a good idea, man. But yeah. Okay, now I got the anxiety of him. He's driving there right now as we're talking.
The only way to learn is to do it. He's going to have to at some point. He's like 30 years old, so it's about time you let him drive out of the house, bro.
I like, no, you stay in your room.
He hasn't left the neighborhood yet.
He's like, he's 21. He's like, I'm like, you stay in this house. Like, I'm 21, Dad. I'm like, then you pay your own rent.
That kid's already been involved in 2 active shooter situations and survived just fine.
Yeah. So I don't
want to make light of that, but it's
right.
But that's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is, I have anxiety. I'm trying to give everything up to the Lord. I understand that, and it's what happens is it makes it difficult. Does that make sense? Like, okay, give it up to me. Here, watch this. See if you're really
real trust. Yeah.
And then some things happen, and I'm like, oh, okay, you're in control. Yeah. I'll just sit here on the couch and close my eyes and and hope for the best, man.
Let's hope for the best.
That's funny. That's funny. God, kind of just bring those things up when you're like, I want to give it to you, and it's like, okay, well, here's something to give to me.
Yeah, watch this. Watch the world burn, literally.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's funny, because I was today meditating on I just was wanted to think about what did it cost God. What did my sin cost? Just think about the price He paid on the cross for me, and just think. I want to meditate on that and kind of get to a bigger view of that, because sometimes I forget. Like, we're in this kind of bubble, I guess. Like most other cultures experience things like suffering and those things a little bit more frequently than we do, and maybe they're even more aware of people losing their lives because of extreme circumstances, and we don't really have those things as much. I mean, we've seen them, and people have been more anxious about them in our culture over the past several years because of the active assailant things that are happening all around, and with the fire that's going on. So we're kind of experiencing that a little bit more. But today I was meditating. I was like, I want to know what the cost was. Like, I want to just meditate on that and just think about what did it cost God. Oh yeah. And I've come to this because I then prayed a prayer that I think I might regret. And I prayed this prayer. I said, Lord, I want to know the cost of their suffering. And
I wouldn't pray that one.
Yeah, I know. And I prayed
understand
that.
it.
I prayed it, but I was like, I might regret this. But I want. Right. but it's something where I think it's a very, I think it'll be something that will draw me closer to the Lord to think about.
I'm sure most
suffering.
certainly. Yeah. When you're praying this, let me ask you real fast, are you saying like you want to know like intellectually know, have better knowledge, or
well, I was,
intimately know? In other words, what is that? The difference between sympathize and empathize or whatever? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's the problem. Was I wasn't specific. So God's like, yes, I got him. He's getting that shit.
Right. So, well, I guess my question is, because it's not a resolution. It's just a reset. Like, I'm gonna try and stop having so much anxiety. And then when I said that, the anxiety went through the roof.
Yeah.
So do you guys have anything that you try and do during the new year? I listened to another podcast. These guys, it's called Life After Sunday. They're like three guys from Arkansas.
Yeah.
One's
you mentioned it. They sound amazing. Yeah.
They're kind of like, it's like our podcast, but in the South, and they're really good. And they kind of had one on that.
Probably tremendously better.
Probably better.
It is way better.
Just when people from the South talk, it's like, I want to listen more.
I think they're from Arkansas.
Yeah.
But they're really good podcasts. So if anybody's listening to ours, listen to them. But I listened to it and I was like, oh, let's do that. So I stole this one from them a little bit, but we're going in a different direction.
Well, I mean, but obviously you're not really ever stealing this because material is consistently regurgitated because it's a reality of what we have. We always have this. It's a new year, new you, right?
Yeah.
All this stuff.
Resolutions and all that.
Yeah, I think resolution, people get mad, but I think you should try and do better.
It's interesting, right? It's in Lamentations, I think 22, where it's like, new mercies every single day. Yeah. And so if you're a believer in Jesus or follower of the Lord, you should recognize that there is a freshness that we should try to go to God every day. We have a freshness every day because we can get a fresh start from every single moment moving forward.
Right.
But
I just told somebody that yesterday.
Well, and what's funny is I would usually argue, like, we get so caught up on the date, like, because one day to the next, if you were to just sit there and didn't have a calendar or whatever, it would just be the sun went down, the sun comes up. The sun went down, the sun comes up. However, there's a bit of an apologetic argument that just dawned on me while you were saying this, because that was going to be my first thing. Let's unpack this. But first of all, say, like, January 1st, 2025 doesn't really mean anything compared to December 31st, 2024. It's just the sun went down and the sun came up again.
Yeah.
God's mercies are new every single day, no matter what the year. But there's kind of an apologetic argument to say that we have this fixation on organization because we're created in the image of God, and He is a God of organization. The entire universe works like a perfect watch or clock, right? Yeah. Which even includes the way the sun goes up and comes down and the way that we can have a new day and a new year. And so there's kind of a biblical and apologetic argument for that we as creatures appreciate the organization and the opportunity to make things fresh again every single day like our God does. Mm-hmm. So it just dawned on me while you were saying that. Yeah. And so to unpack that, like,
and
you have this fear or this anxiety, and it's of course going to be realized because we live in a fallen world.
Well, you can start a resolution any time of the year. You can start over. Yeah, every
minute.
I talked to somebody yesterday, a young person who was like, "I've done so many bad things. I can't come back from." I'm like, "That's yesterday. You can come back from it tomorrow." Mm-hmm. I said, "Then just forget about it." I mean, obviously, you have to do it. I was talking to him because I used to do it all the time. Like, I'm going to be better. I'm going to be better. Well, that's just lip service. So the first time I'd didn't tell anybody I was going to be better and just said, I'm going to do it. That's when it hit home. Because you can say it and then you feel better when you say something. Mm-hmm. Just like we did our podcast with your daughter and her fiance. They still good?
Just boyfriend and girlfriend, but he hadn't asked her to marry him yet.
I thought they did.
Okay.
No, he asked me if he could ask her.
Oh, then tell her not to listen to this one.
But no, she knows though. She knows. Are you kidding? My daughter is, by the way, speaking of organization, she probably has already given him, like, this is when and how you will ask. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, he probably has it on a calendar that she created for him, if I'm being honest.
So that was on Thanksgiving, and I was editing the video. I'm like, oh, man, I need to lose some weight in my gut. So I started a resolution in November, and that wasn't good because the holidays came, and I love sweets.
You fall right off that one. Yeah.
No, but I've been doing well.
Good job.
I've been working. I talk to you all the time, John, and I was like, he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I've been at the gym for 3 hours.
Oh, my. I'm super envious. By the way, I've been in James 3:14-16, envy and jealousy. Seth, I'm massively envious and jealous of him because I'll be like, what are you up to? And he's like, I'm on the treadmill. I was like, dude, you were at the gym like an hour and a half ago. He's like, I can go like 2.5 hours a day.
Yeah.
I don't have that kind of time.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
I went to the gym for 20 minutes today.
Right. Yeah, I didn't even make it today.
But you would think I'd be in phenomenal shape, but I'm not.
You're in A shape. That's all you need.
But I have dropped some pounds in the midsection.
Oh, good.
See, I'm drinking a Sprite Zero.
Mm-hmm. Look at you.
I normally drink water, but I just I need something sweet to deal with you guys.
Interesting, yeah.
So listen. Let's talk about a couple things. We're still looking at all this stuff.
Right.
I don't want to get past like the fires and continue to pray that just God's hand of blessing and peace would be over all these things. But our God knows, right? And nothing happens in this world, in this universe, without our God's sovereign decision to allow it to occur or to use it to get people's attention. Okay, continue to pray for that stuff. It's never going to go away. There'd be wars, rumors of wars, earthquakes, birthing pangs, and all these things. So those are just going to be part of life, and it is what it is. But when it comes to this New Year stuff and us, what do we have control over? Our individual reactions, responses to things in the world and in life. Yeah. And if we consistently turn back to God, like, God, I just need to serve you. You did a beautiful liturgy, Seth, before we got started. Our listeners should know this by now, if they listen pretty regularly, that we talk about it. We do pray before our episodes, before our recordings. We don't know what we're going to talk about. We just sort of have a quick conversation, pray over it. And Seth today just did this wonderful liturgy over this and speaks to a lot of this. Like, are we dying to ourselves? Are we willing to give this just for the glory of God? That's all we want to do. And that includes this New Year's stuff.
Right.
So I'm at the gym the other day, and I was telling Alan about this. There was a guy I met. His name's Jeremiah. I doubt he'll ever listen to this podcast. But I'm like I'm going to go try to get on a bike. And that's usually when I'll call Alan, by the way, is I can't do it from the Stairmaster because I might pass out. But I want to go get on a bike because then I can make phone calls and do stuff. Because on the bike, I can do all those things.
So if you're really making phone calls and doing stuff, you're not exercising as you should.
That's correct. I can go, a zero resistance and like 1 mile an hour and just casually. Basically, I'm just sitting there wiggling.
That's what I was going to ask you. I was like, whenever you talk about the gym, you're like, I was talking to this person. It's like it's never.
Then he gets on the bike and makes phone calls.
100%, bro. I walk around, I socialize. I was at physical therapy the other day. Look, we get off topic. And the physical therapist, was like, okay, so do you work out? I said, yeah, well, I go to the gym. And she's like, well, what do you do when you go to the gym? I mostly walk around, talk, hang out. She was like, okay, I'm going to write down socialize. That's literally what she did. Okay. So I walk around in the gym, hang out, talk to some people. Then I go upstairs and I'm like, better not get on the Stairmaster. I might pass out. Let me go get on the bike. And then I sit there and I might as well just be at home wiggling my legs a little bit because then I just sit there and I'm like, I'm going to call Alan and make some phone calls.
You can get those ones that you just sit in your chair and there's pedals.
That would probably be better than what I do at the gym.
I think those are for the 80-year-olds.
But the point is I'm walking along and I see there's one bike open because we're past the New Year. So what happens after the New Year? Everybody goes to the gym. It sucks, dude. It's like so crowded.
It does suck, but it's also good.
You're right. Okay.
I love seeing people in there, and I really hope they stay.
Yep.
Because there's a lady, and I've seen her there. I think she started before the New Year, and I'm cut you off.
No, you're good.
But I was getting on the Stairmaster. Yeah. She's very, very large, and she's like, oh my God, I can never do that. I go, you'll get there one day. And she's like, thank you. And she walked by. I'm like, yeah,
that's awesome.
And she's still there, but it's only been 2 weeks. But I hope she stays.
Nope, you're 100% right, and this is my point. I'm walking, and there's no bike open, and then there's one. Okay. But the one bike is kind of close to another one where there's this guy, Jeremiah. I already said his name. Like I said, I didn't mention the podcast, and I know for a fact he doesn't live here.
Was he a bullfrog? Oh, wait, that's a song.
I hate you. Okay, so anyway, this guy is huge. He's like, I would have guessed almost 500 pounds. As it turns out, I know his weight is like 427 pounds because I'm walking. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's no bike open except for the one next to the super fat guy that is probably going to smell. I'm just being honest. I was like, I instantly became judgy is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's not cool.
We talk about it all the time. That's why we do the podcast.
I'm not cool. Yeah. And so I'm like, dude, I can't get next to this guy's probably going to stink. And I'm trying, and actually usually too, I also have my prayer list I want to do.
So you got your prayer list and you go, I can't get next to this fat guy. He's going to stink. I'm like,
yes, judgy, terrible. 100%. And I'm the pastor of a church. You're exactly right.
Convicted.
100%. Well, then he knocks his bottle of water over and it goes like under the only empty bike. And I can see like I'm 3 feet from him at this point. And I was going to walk by. And so God used this because I'm like, I got to pick up the guy's water. He can't get it, obviously. Like I could tell like he was like, oh. So I said, you know what? I'm going to get on this bike anyway, bro. Here you go. And I handed him his water. I end up, you guys, my point is this. Got in this great conversation with this dude. He's not even here. He knows that he was an overeater. He was in the military. He served in the Army in the 2nd Infantry. And he's like, dude, I served overseas. I said, so at one point you were super shredded, bro. Like you could run miles. He goes, yeah, it just sucks. He's younger than me. I got into this habit of just overeating. And so I found this organization and they sent me out here and I got to stay here. It's like a home to like lose weight. Yeah. And he's like, I've lost over 100 pounds so far. Bro, I got in this. I was blessed by the conversation. My point is this. I was blessed because I was like, bro, are you a believer in Jesus? He's like, yeah, I'm a Christian. He goes, I kind of don't go to church. So I kind of try to encourage him. He's from Texas. I encouraged him about a church that I happen to know right where he lives. I just was there a few weeks ago, like literally in his neighborhood, based on a restaurant we both talked about. Dude, God is so good. There are no accidents.
Right.
I was like, there's a church that's 2 miles from your house. I just went to it maybe 3-4 weeks ago. One of the Christ Chapel, I'll tell you the name of the church, Christ Chapel, wonderful church. It's in the Fort Worth area. And so my point is this. He's like, dude, it's not really a New Year's resolution. I started this months ago, but I just recognize I was 550 pounds, and I know what it feels like to be in shape. I know what it feels like. And so I was like, I don't even know you, and I'm proud of you, because I try to share with my kids, like we all talk about, our God created us. Our body is a temple. The Holy Spirit indwells within us. We want to have that a sound mind, body, and spirit. That spirituality, it's good to be intellectual, but we need to take care of our bodies. I don't even know you, bro. So glad I sat next to this guy is my point. New Year's resolution. It was months prior, I guess, is the reason why. I just want to share, one, get it off my chest, and I'm so terrible I was being judgy. But I was so blessed by it.
Yeah. It kind of reminded me of something that happened a couple weeks ago in my apartment complex. I was going for a walk, and there was this family that was moving into their house.
Thought you were fat?
And I was like, man, I know what it's like to be fit. Not anymore. No, so this family's moving into their apartment, and it was just them moving their stuff in. And
you were like looking the other way. Can't help.
No, seriously, I was on the sidewalk going to their house. Like I was gonna pass by them. I went to the other side so that I didn't have to interact with them.
Yeah,
man, you two pastors are horrible.
We're the worst.
So, we're the worst. But so then I was, as I was walking by, I was like I should help them, and I felt like the Spirit saying, hey, why don't you just go help them? And I crossed back over, and I was like, Lord, I never regret it. I never regret doing this.
Yeah. Right.
So I went there and I was talking, and I was like, hey, can I help? And he's like, sure, and so I had to talk to them.
And then when he said sure, you're like, dang.
Yeah, I was like, please say no. And then,
I've done that.
And then turns out he's from the Bronx. He used to be a youth pastor, and they had some church things going on, and I invited him to our church, and he's been going, and now he's an intern now at our church after. So,
oh wow.
Yeah, and he works in Boulder City already at the Veterans Home, and it was just like, wow,
there are no accidents, bro.
Yeah, right.
And it's are we fighting God's plan and purpose for that moment, or are we going to be open to it?
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. I really wanted to fight.
Yeah, I fight it all the time.
I don't talk to people at the gym. You do the opposite. I'm head down and I go, and I don't want to talk to people. But I was thinking I should change that attitude and just be more open and receptive towards people. But I'm an introvert. I don't like people.
Yeah, no.
I've been blessed. I've had people like the Christmas and stuff. I've had people from the gym that I go to come to church, come to the Christmas service, come visit. Usually they just kind of visit, but just because I harp on them so hard all the time. Like, come to church. They're like, fine, if I go once, will you leave me alone?
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's okay. I'm still blessed by it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But all right, so let's go back to some of Alan's problems.
Some problems. We've gone over these several times. People know my anxiety. I just want to say that I'm gonna work on it. And it's funny, as soon as you start to work on it, it's like you get tested.
Extra.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, okay, here's a test. Then I'm doing the chronological Bible. I started reading it, not listening. Be proud of me.
Yeah. Whoa. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, I've been reading it, and Job was the one that I was reading, and it's like his friends were like, hey, all this bad stuff happened to you, so you must be a sinner. I'm like, so I think that, I started thinking that. I'm like, why is all this bad stuff going on, man? Is it because of me? As soon as I started, giving it up, it's like, okay, let's see let's test this real quick.
The refinement process of
it's crazy, right?
Yeah, it's funny. I was reading a book. I think it's by Chuck Colson. And he shared a story about a guy who was a Russian elite, but then he got in the bad side of the Russian elite, and then he went into one of their labor camps,
the gulags.
Yeah, and then he was in there, and he was.
Why'd you look like gulags? And he gave his.
He decided to say it. He said it angry.
From the 80s, 1980s stuff that I love. Okay, keep going. Sorry.
Well, he shared the story, and the doctor, he was a doctor, and he ended up meeting Christ in this gulag, and then he was helping someone, and he said this guy was sick, and he said to them, nothing that we experience in life is undeserved, in terms of all the bad things that happen. We certainly deserve worse, but God has created a way for us so that we don't have to experience that always. We can rejoice and we can have a joy even in the midst of those bad things that do happen to us. And that's something I have to remind myself, because I'll stub my toe and be like, God, what the heck? Why did you do this? But to remind myself of that reality.
So I got a story for that. What is it? What's today? Whatever. We record this a few days before we put it out, and somebody texts me from our church, and is like, "Hey, I'm thinking about you and your small group. Anything we can pray for you guys for?" And I remember I was like, I didn't get back to him right away, and I was like, "Hey, thanks, I appreciate you, Ed. Just pray. We have a couple families with teen drivers. Just pray that they're safe, and they're going, because I worry about them on the roads." And he's like, "Yeah, I got teen drivers. I'll do that. I'm praying for you guys." And then I was at the gym the next day. The very next day at the gym, my phone rings. My daughter. Mm-hmm. I pick up the phone and she is in a panic. I crashed the car. I'm in the middle of the road. What do? I was like, calm down. You're alive, because I can hear you.
Yeah.
And I was like, how are the people behind you or hit you or whatever? And she's like, they're fine. What do I do? I could hear horns honking.
Just a big busy intersection.
It was a minor thing. Okay, whatever. I don't even, we took care of it. I was able to pull a little dent out of her door, but I was like, I wanted to text Ed back and go, hey, did you pray last night for my daughter to be a safe driver, or did you not, man? Because as soon as the next day, I was like, this is not working out for me this year, man. But she's fine, and the lady was fine. So they're very sweet people, actually. They were very nice, the people that she got in an accident with.
Yeah.
But I was like, this year is starting out pretty rough, man.
That is so funny, though, because you
if anybody knows a good insurance company, I might need it if our insurance goes up. But, that's, you got to do the right thing, so whatever. That's the way it goes, man.
I just find that
I
kind of fascinating.
I don't like teen drivers. I needed my daughter to get a job, pay her own car insurance.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. But it's fascinating, right? You literally specifically asked for prayer in that, and were tested in it within 24 hours.
And the good thing is it could have been a lot worse. Everybody's fine. She's healthy. Nobody got injured. I'm like, I guess that's the good prayer, because it could have been way worse. So, it's fine.
Yeah, like a little bit of a lesson learned, sort of like you exercise.
And it might help her become a better driver, I hope.
Yeah.
You hope and pray, right?
Yeah. And she's not a bad driver. I think, we have lapses. I told her, I was talking to my wife, we have lapses in driving. I've done it. I left your apartment one day, pulled right out in front of somebody. I'm like, how did I miss that guy? He didn't hit me.
Yeah.
But that's just dumb luck.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah. That's happened before, where I'm looking at my truck, and like there's the little bar is covering, so I don't see it. And I turn and I look back, and I'm like, oh my gosh, And so that's happened before too. But,
there's incidents.
Yeah. That kind of reminded me, I think, sometimes, because those things happen to me as well, where I'll pray for something and then I'll be tested in that right away. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I wonder if it's because we're putting our hope in some things that are not necessarily what we are hoping in. Like my in terms of like for my kids, sometimes I pray, keep them safe from things, but my prayer or what I do should be to train them in these situations so that they're prepared for what life is going to bring to them. Yeah, and really our purpose as parents is to help form our kids into people who are going to follow Christ and know how to interact and be good drivers and to interact with this world in a way that's going to be meaningful for them. And I think in the same way, like oftentimes, like the church I go to has elderly people there, and
you mean like in their 50s?
Like 20, 30 years more than that.
Oh, okay, that's good. We're young.
So there's a lot of people who are nearing the end of their lives, and sometimes like the fear that's associated with dying. Yeah, it's an interesting thing, because a lot of times we'll pray for health and healing. Yeah, and I totally 100% agree with that. But Paul says to live is Christ, to die is gain.
Gain.
And
somebody questioned that on our podcast.
Yeah,
he's like, game? I'm like, I think it's gain.
Gain, yeah, to gain.
I only heard that.
Yeah, so to live is Christ, to die is gain. It's better to die.
It's a gain. You won. Yeah, it's like you win if you believe in Jesus, right?
So oftentimes we're holding so tightly to something that we're actually not meant for eternally. Yeah. And so it's one of those things that I'm just like, I want to have. That's why I kind of prayed for that suffering, because I want to have a greater view of what is to come than I do of my circumstances.
Yeah. You know what? We're probably coming to a close pretty soon, just because I think
we're wrap it up, man.
Well, here's just real fast. Maybe we can talk about this next episode a little bit. Going back to the liturgy that Seth brought up, and going back to a thought on a willingness to just say, God, I just use me however.
Yeah.
I'm going to I was reading something in Chuck Swindoll. It's funny, we'll bring up these different guys we pay attention to. And he was sharing kind of an analogy about that, like giving it up for Christ, living for the Lord, especially and I think in terms of like the new year, and we want safety and driving and all this. And he sort of says it's pretty interesting. He's like, God allows us, gives us the freedom to kind of have the input, almost like putting a kid on our lap. He says, I used to let my kids drive in the rural country, whatever, when they were little, and I'd put them on my lap, and in their mind, they were driving. He's like, because I gave them the steering wheel. I had the brakes and the gas. They were little. In their mind, they were driving, they were doing it. And technically, they really were. They were steering the car as we went kind of in zigzags or whatever in the big, long driveway or whatever. And he said, but in the big picture, that's really what God wants of us, is to be that child who is willing, like, thank you, God, that I got some control here. I get to kind of play with the steering wheel, but ultimately, I really just want to give it up to you, follow you. Thank you for keeping the direction squared away, and just consistently be in that place of, I want God to drive my life.
Yeah.
It's so fun that I get to be on the steering wheel. He gives us that. That's so great. But it's like a mentality, as opposed to the mentality of, get out of my way, get out of this car, God, I got this. You know what I mean?
And that's my problem. That's great, because I'm okay with things I feel like I can control. Like I saw the thing that happened New Year's Day where the terrorist went down. I feel like when I'm in a situation and I'm out and about, I'm like, okay, I carry a firearm. I carry a lot of ammunition now because it's a crazy world out there, which I never did before. But I'm also like looking around. I'm like, okay, this is not a good spot for us to be. And sometimes I can't get out of it, but I can focus on, I'm not going to be here because this is a great place for something to happen. I can control something like that.
Sure.
Obviously, I can't control everything.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I do.
Right.
But when my kids are gone and I can't control it, that's where I have the problem. So I think that's we're going to wrap it up. But when I talk about New Year's resolutions, I don't think it's a bad thing. Some people say, I hate hearing that. I think it's a good thing. It's a reset, and you can do it any time of the year. I did it in November, to be honest with you, but I'm trying to get rid of that. And he's tested me this week, and I feel like I'm doing much better, and I've handled it better. I'm doing better. And when I don't, I just sit back and watch Netflix. And then I forget about everything.
No, I thought you were going to go super deep on that.
No, I'm not deep. You guys know I'm not deep. But anyway, I think, to wrap it up, I think New Year's resolutions are good. I think you should reset, especially when it comes biblically and in a Christian lifestyle. I also reset my tithings. I want to make sure I do the right. I want to do right by the Lord. I want to do it. I want to give. I want to. I don't want to do it begrudgingly. So I do that. I mean, there's a reset, and I think we should all do that. So that's why I did this episode. I think it's good. Anybody got anything else? I rambled on. I always do. Sorry.
I like it.
Sorry, listeners.
Yeah, it's good.
Nope, it's good.
All right,
let's
wrap it up.
I'm good to go. Be blessed. Thank you, guys.
That's right.
Eric